My name is Patrick Riley, Partner Marketing Manager at the Predictive Index. In this episode, I talked to Gopaldass of leading Lotus to get her perspective on how disengagement truly impacts an organization. We focused on the Inspire aptitude of the talent optimization framework and how to help clients increase engagement in their company. Enjoy. Uma, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about employee engagement and the impact that it's having on a company's bottom line. And I know that this is extremely a point of passion for you, given the work that you're doing with your firm, leading Lotus. So being an SME when it comes to engagement, you know more than anybody that ignoring disengagement can be costly to a company, both from the bottom line as well as reputation. And we're seeing studies saying that disengagement is costing U.S. companies between $480 and $600 billion per year in lost productivity. So this is big. Yeah. So today's conversation, we're going to focus on what the 4 factors of engagement are, some of those factors and how they negatively impact engagement, and how a client can course correct. So I want to start with the 4 factors. We did a study this year, the 2019 annual engagement report, where we identified job, manager, team, and organization as the 4 variables that impact engagement. Do those resonate with you? Are we missing any there?
Engagement is a very tricky game, and one of the things is the way you guys have laid it out in terms of the 4 factors, the job fit, managerial expertise and development, the team dynamics and the organizational structure and the culture itself. Yep. It encompasses everything that could go wrong in an engagement profile or a disengagement profile. The biggest problem we see is it's not so much being able to say I have or the lack of engagement. The problem is how do you measure it? Mm-hmm. And most companies do not know where to put their finger on it. And the way we've broken it up, the way you guys have broken it up, it's absolutely wonderful that they can go and say, it's a job fit, or it's all of the 4. It's the managers who have not been developed, or it's the culture that's a bit toxic, or what is causing the triggers in the disengagement, or what is enhancing the engagement so we can use that to leverage opportunities. So I'm completely bought into.
That's great. And let's dive into one of those factors. I think one of the ones that resonate the most is poor manager fit. And we find that one of the things that can be done is for managers to ask for feedback from everyone in the organization, both high and low. And we find that even the most self-aware leaders still have blind spots. So can you tell us a time where you worked with a key leader on some of the blind spots that they had within a client organization?
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of leaders, whether they're board members to C-suite to mid-management level. And even in my own careers, I've gone through a lot of boss types and mentors and advisors. The biggest key thing about self-awareness is the lack of time to be self-aware, especially in a hyper-growth environment. So I've had a boss who, I come from mining field and oil and gas and technology field. So at the end of every day, he would come into my office and he would plop himself down at 7 p.m. You're still working, remember, it's hyper growth and everything's go, go, go. Mm-hmm. And we have a team of 120 people and I have peers and all of that. But he'll plop himself down and just go, and all I would do is just continue working because I know that he needs a mirror for a self-assessment of how he did that day, how we did during meetings, what can be improved. Mm-hmm. And him sitting down is trying to reflect on that. Yep. Now, I'm one person giving him advice and being a mentor and advisor, but a system like Predictive Index actually does that for you without having to depend on your employees to do that for you.
That's awesome. And so you talked about self-awareness, and the other factor we talked about was team. Yes. And self-awareness needs to permeate the team as well as the individual. We find that using people data to understand what those team dynamics are will help better collaboration, better communication amongst the team. So I wanted to hear from you, are there any difficult team situations or team dynamics that you've helped a company achieve better results by figuring that out?
Oh, yes. It doesn't matter the company size or the type of company. A lot of companies have team issues, team dynamics, and it's either misalignment of goals or expectations or not understanding each other's assessments or behaviors or skills or motivations. So there's a lot of times you have a distrust in the team, or you have silos that are created to run projects in separate modes that are going in different pace and stalling. And situations like that are pretty common, and so business results get delayed. So your team is actually one of the most important things to actually get engaged through a common language.
Yep.
And the common language could be, hey, I understand where you're coming from because I've read who you are, how you're doing this, and I understand, let's all discuss and agree on something. And that's a much better approach than just saying, okay, here's the team, here's your goals, go. Because your workplace is getting more diverse. The generations are all getting mixed up. So in a team, you will have so many different kind of cultures, so many different kind of age groups, thought leadership, stages of growth. So that's how you engage the team.
Great. And so we've talked about manager, we've talked about team. Next is organization.
Oh, yes.
And it's important for an organization, we found, to be transparent from top to bottom, because employees are going to get disengaged if decisions are being made and they don't know why. They're going to start to make assumptions on that. So can you talk us through a time or give us an example where you worked with a client to put a communication plan together for a significant decision that they were making or change that they were making?
Absolutely. Communication plan is very also a tricky process, because especially when companies are going through transformation or reorganization or mergers, the instant reaction for a lot of companies is to hire an external communication consultant and throw out the blanket statement, hey, everything is business as usual.
Yep.
And then, it's crickets. And, when I come in, normally what I'm suggesting to a lot of the leaders is truthful, authentic communication by understanding who your people are. Break it out. There's no harm. I know you have to worry about legal issues or, upsetting people, but if you're doing the typical lip service communication without understanding who your groups of people are, how do they engage, how do they perceive information, it's going to backfire. And I've seen it really backfire in a lot of transformation projects, change management projects. Change management is always looked upon as a driven down from top approach versus you guys are all engaged in it. Things may be hard, things may be not hard, but we have your best interest in our heart. That's the easiest thing to do.
That's great advice. and I think we've learned through our discussion, 3 key takeaways would be: identify what those blockers are, share, once you've identified the blocker, share it with the organization, and then come up with a plan to communicate and execute change.
Beautiful.
So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And for those watching, if you want to learn more, click the link below and download the playbook for addressing engagement issues.
Thank you.